Diablo 2, a masterpiece of a game many of us grew up with. Releasing over 20 years ago, D2 continues to outshine and outperform many modern ARPGs. But why? Why do myself and so many people love this game? Why are there hundreds of thousands of people that return to this game every season? And how can such an old game maintain such a die-hard fan base over all these years? Some may say it's nostalgia, but I disagree. In this video, I'm going to give my opinion and my main reasoning as to why I think Diablo 2 is the best ARPG ever made. So I think there are many factors that make Diablo 2 such a good game. If I touched on all of them, this would probably be a 3-hour video, so I'm just going to try to touch on some of the main points, and if I miss anything that you think I missed, just let me know in the comments. One of the coolest things about this game is how many builds there are and just overall build diversity. There's so many different ways of playing. You know, there's different builds for each different class, and, you know, that just offers many different types of play styles to fit everybody. That's one of the things about D2 that's so great. You know, not only are you always striving to build up your main class, but you're always keeping an eye out for certain loot for other builds. You might be a Boazon, but let's say you find a Death's Web, and boom, now you want to make a Poison Necro. You always have many options as to how you want to play, and what build you want to play, and as a player, this creates more goals to strive for. Each new season, I never really feel forced to play a certain build. You know, a lot of people go with Magic Find Sork just to get the gear for what they want to make later, but in general, you're never really forced into anything. You can always branch off and have fun in new different ways, and veterans of D2 know that there are some builds that are better than other builds. You know, there's some builds that are better damage dealers, but at the end of the day, there are so many endgame builds to choose from, and most, if not all of them, can be viable in hell. You know, some are better at magic finding, some are better at crowd control. You might have some builds that are better against a single target like a boss, but there are just so many options to choose from, and in my opinion, that's just the beauty of it. And not only are there so many builds to choose from, but it feels good trying them all out. I mean, it really just feels good trying out new builds. It's so hard to get bored when you have all these different ways of playing and different builds to try out. I feel like a lot of modern ARPGs, you kind of feel forced into a specific build. You know, you might pick one class and there's really only a single play style to choose from within that specific class, and you just kind of feel forced into certain builds where, you know, on the other side in D2, you really have the freedom to choose how you want to play. Okay, you want to be barbarian? Do you want to be, you know, a Warcry barbarian, a frenzy barbarian? Like, there's so many different options. You have Sork, you have fire, lightning, cold. You know, each build really has multiple options to choose from, and most of them are all viable. I'll admit there are some builds where, you know, they're kind of made for leveling, for example, and some builds that are made for, you know, more towards the end game. But I would say most builds, you can make them viable in hell, and you really just do have the freedom to choose how you want to play. And that is definitely one of the reasons why D2 is so amazing. And now we're going to talk about loot. I think loot is really going to be the juicy topic here. It's going to be probably the main reason so many people love Diablo 2. Is going to be the loot system and the itemization. It is absolutely amazing. It's kind of sad because a lot of modern ARPGs nowadays, you know, you kill one boss and you get showered in 10 legendaries or 10 gold items or whatever, and none of it feels significant. In Diablo 2, you really have to work for your loot, therefore making it feel more rewarding. I have yet to see another game that gives me the same feeling that loot hunting in Diablo 2 gives me. You can play this game for years and years and still enjoy the loot hunt. The feeling of getting that first Ja rune drop, or getting a bird drop, or even, you know, seeing a Griffin's Eye drop. The dopamine hit from seeing these GG items is really second to none. And there is a theoretical tier list of items and runes. Some are better than others, some are worse than others, and they all have different drop rates. Sure, other games have similar systems to this, but none of them come close to what D2 offers. You know, some of the more GG items like a Death's Web are going to be a lot harder to self-find compared to something like a Shaco. But the thing is even, you know, a GG item like a Death Web versus something like a Shaco, they're both still going to feel really, really good to find.
Yes! Yes! Woo, baby!
Because in reality, none of them are, you know, easy to find. Some might be harder than others, but none of them are easy to find. You don't get handed anything for free. You know, Diablo 2 is a 20-year-old game, and I think it really stands out because a lot of newer games these days, you just get handed everything. Everybody wants instant gratification, and I do really think needing to grind for what you're looking for, it makes it just feel more rewarding and more impactful and more significant. And this, I think, is one of the reasons why the loot hunt in D2 feels so good. Veterans of the game, you know you have to grind for what you're looking for. And when you finally get that GG drop, it's a dopamine hit like no other. There are so many good items to look for, so many runes to look for, that farming loot really never gets boring. You know, even if your main character is almost finished, like I said earlier, there's so much build diversity that you have other builds to farm for. You have other classes to farm for. You know, maybe there's rune words you haven't made yet, and you have to go rune farming. You know, it seems like the grind in Diablo 2 really never ends, and that's a good thing. You don't want to have that feeling of, you know, oh, okay, I'm done with this game now. It's a good feeling to know that you can just keep farming and sinking time into a game that you love like this. And as you're farming, you always have reasons to pick up and identify many different items. And like I said, when you finally come across that good, you know, that good, decent, or even GG item, it's a feeling like no other. And if you do find a good item that you don't need, you can always trade it for something you do need. Diablo 2's trading market isn't perfect, but it is pretty good, and it makes finding items you don't need still valuable because most of the good items hold some sort of value in the market. Most items they usually correlate with the runes, and, you know, let's say a Shaco is worth an Ist rune, or depending on the time of the ladder, it could be more than that, but most good items hold value. So, you know, if you find something you don't need, and you can just trade it, and let's say you're farming for a Shaco and you can't find a Shaco, if you go find a certain item of similar value, then you can trade that for what you need. So you could trade, you know, let's say you find an Ist rune, you could trade that for a Shaco if you need a Shaco. Or if you're a more hardcore player, you can really go hardcore and force yourself to play solo self-found. And that's when you really get a taste of the loot hunt in Diablo 2. You know, for the longest time, I played online only. And, you know, just recently, like a month or two ago, I started an offline kind of Holy Grail type thing. And I have been appreciating the loot hunt in Diablo 2 so much more since I started that offline grind. But yeah, the loot hunt in Diablo 2 really never ends. Like I said, you're going to enjoy every second of it. The dopamine rushes, the feeling of finally getting a GG item and then equipping that item, and then you actually feel the power increase. The feeling of seeing that final rune you need for Enigma, or, you know, whatever it is. No, I don't think any other game will ever come close to the joy and the feelings that I get from hunting loot in Diablo 2.
Oh my god! What? What? What?
Goodbye, nice helm. Probably? Oh, that's so sad to get rid of.
So, in conclusion, build diversity and loot and itemization were my main reasons for loving Diablo 2, but there are obviously so many more reasons. If I talked about every single reason I love Diablo 2, this would be like a 5-hour long video. But some quick honorable mentions are leveling, how good it feels to level, especially early on. You really feel the impact of each level. You feel more powerful with each level, and thank God there's no dynamic level scaling like some games. But yeah, the leveling is pretty good in Diablo 2. Another honorable mention would be just the social aspect of the game. I think it's it can feel really good, and it can be really fun to play with a couple friends, start from scratch, and kind of slowly build up each other's characters. Maybe, one guy finds something that the other dude needs, and it can just be a fun process playing with friends. So I think that's pretty cool. And then another social aspect, I guess, would be trading. I think trading in Diablo 2 is good. It obviously isn't perfect. That's why there's websites like JSP and like Tradery and some of these other websites. But I don't have anything against those websites, and I think trading just in game is okay. And hey, at least there is trading, unlike Diablo 4. But yeah, trading is just another social aspect I think is pretty good in the game. And lastly, the grind. This kind of ties in with loot hunting, but the grind truly never ends in Diablo 2. And as I mentioned, I think this is great. Some games you play 100 hours or whatever, and then you get that feeling of, oh, I have nothing else to do. Which, is whatever. If you get 100 hours out of a game, that's not necessarily bad. But in Diablo 2, it just feels great knowing that you can sink a bunch of time in and still have more and more and more to grind for. The grind really never ends. And at the same time, you don't really have to be super hardcore. You can play Diablo 2 pretty casually and still have just as much enjoyment as somebody playing 10 hours a day. So you have both options. You don't have to sink a bunch of time in, but if you want to, you will get enjoyment out of it. But yeah, with that, I think that's all I really wanted to cover. Like I said, if I missed anything, let me know in the comments. But yeah, this is, why I think Diablo 2 is the best ARPG ever. And in my personal opinion, Diablo 2 is my favorite game ever made. Hands down. I love Diablo 2 so much, and I know a lot of you guys feel the same. I don't think there's ever going to be another game like Diablo 2. But, that's okay. We'll keep playing Diablo 2, keep enjoying Diablo 2 for years and years to come. And I hope you guys will too. Thanks for watching. Peace.